Well, welcome back. This is Julie Baranek, host of the Seven Figure Builder Show, and I'm here today with my friend Shannon Hernandez. Hey, Shannon.
Hello, so nice to see you.
And you as well. And I'm so excited to have you here today. Shannon, you are all about joy and life in your business. I know you are the expert in the content personality wheel, which I can't wait to dig in and hear more about, and the founder of Joyful Business Revolution, a business growth strategy and consulting company. You work with people all around the world with your mission driven marketing and creative email marketing campaigns, which newsflash, email's not dead. So we're going to talk about that too. You've been featured on CBS, ABC, Fox, NBC, 25 years experience, so much that you bring to the table. But tell us a little bit about what it is behind your passion and yeah, what brought you to where you are today.
Oh my gosh, what a loaded question. Well, my whole passion in life, there's two, teaching and joy. Like being a great trainer and teacher and helping spread joy. And that's really been my mission for years and years. I used to be a teacher. I taught eighth grade in Spanish Harlem, New York City.
Wow.
And it was never a dull moment in Spanish Harlem, as you can imagine.
Right?
But the thing that I realized after I left teaching, and I started this business, I really left teaching. Like I didn't even bring teaching over to the business until probably year four when I realized there was such a void missing in really what I'm put on this earth to do. And so I transformed this company into a marketing, training, and consultancy company. And now I'm back in my full joy because I get to teach in many communities every month, including my own. So that's kind of like a fun bridge from the past to now.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's funny, I started as a nurse and then transitioned over. And it's funny how that kind of that teaching training piece, I did a lot of it with my patients, and it's something you miss and then it comes out in the business world. So I love when those dots connect. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about the world of email. I know a lot of people, like I alluded to, feel like email is dead, but I know it's not. You know it's not. But tell us, what you found.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I love working with business owners on their email strategy,
Mhm.
is because we really teach story-driven, mission-driven emails, which y'all, it is not hard to stand out with a competition in your inboxes if you do it a different way, right? And so just naturally being that story-driven person, that mission-driven business owner and CEO, if we can get you or your team telling those kinds of stories in emails, people are going to be begging for your emails and then for your services.
Mhm.
So that's like one of the reasons that I really love it. It's, yeah, if we do it like everyone else does it, not gonna move the needle. But as we like to say here at Joyful Business Revolution, different is better.
Yeah.
So we're always helping people with messaging and storytelling, how to be that compelling human being, because at the end of the day, humans buy from humans. It doesn't matter what kind of business that you're in, but especially in the consulting and, expert-based space, that is more true than ever. So email has a 42% higher return on sales than social media. And when you really think about that, and I want everyone to think about that, right? You can spend your time and energy coming up with reels and clips and whatever happens all on social, it goes away very fast, right? And it's still time, energy, and money spent, whether you're paying for ads or you're doing it yourself, versus writing a very genuine, well-crafted email once a week. And I like to really give people a barometer to kind of go from. It's like if 60% of your sales calls and your sales are not coming from email, there's improvement to do.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right? If we can get it closer to 90, I'm even happier. But one of the things that I really want to tell people, because email is not dead, when you see email is dead, I want you to follow that breadcrumb trail, because what they're usually doing is selling you like a flash in the pan
Right.
Instagram strategy,
Right.
something crazy, you know?
Yeah. And it's funny, this is very timely for me. I was on a random note mowing my lawn, I think it was yesterday, and I was literally driving, like that's my mindless time when I just have to do circles.
Yeah.
I like solve the world problems. I write like my marketing plans. Like I just think, right? And I love it. And my husband laughs at me because, I just have this big grin as I'm riding on my lawnmower. But funny enough, and I'm not making this up, I was literally thinking about my email campaigns and I was thinking through my head as I'm riding around the yard, what are the email campaigns that have from other people that have stood out to me and why do they stand out to me? And I was kind of combing through them in my head. And what I came to was they were the storytelling ones, right?
Yeah.
Which we all know is critical. But I was literally, piecing this together in my head of how to incorporate that into my marketing. And yeah, as I'm riding around on my lawnmower. So
I love that. I love that so much. And I agree. Sometimes it's that very thing of unplugging and just letting your mind go where you get your best reflections, insight, and ideas.
yeah, totally. And the other piece with that is, which I know but important for people to remember is when you're using email, you're using a something that you own,
Yeah.
right? Like with social media, can you tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
that and why it's so important?
I do want to talk about that. We continue to get people, just like people listening to this podcast, established business owners who, for one reason or another, either they're more heavily on social or they've always been on social. Now they're starting to think about email. I have no judgment where you are in the process, but the people coming to us within the last year, their accounts are just getting taken down, like right and left. And many of them, they're not even violating anything, right?
The
But
invisible algorithm.
absolutely. And the platforms now have bots doing the review, and you can never get a hold of anyone. And it's really sad that, they built a 6 or 7 figure business on the power of social, but they don't have those contacts in their email. And so now they're essentially having to start completely over from scratch. And that, for me, like, I am a 7 figure business owner, done it all organic, have never paid for ads, rely heavily on my email to do the marketing so I can go live the life I want to live off of social. That alone for me, knowing that if my social media account disappeared,
Mhm.
I would still have a 7 figure business, should be enough for anyone listening to this show to be like, putting on the brakes. Let me go see if this email marketing is actually working for me. And I
Yeah.
don't say that to like make people worried or scared, but it's the truth. Like, we have seen so many people, they've lost their LinkedIn, they've lost their Instagram, they've lost their Facebook. And I feel bad for them when they come and they haven't put the time and energy into the one thing they can own, which is the contacts on their email list.
Yeah. I mean, how quickly do we see people, their account gets hacked and
Yep.
they lose overnight all of their access, everything they've built? You could have thousands upon thousands of contacts in your Facebook or any, social media, and you've literally got nothing the next day. So I agree with you 100%. And ultimately, the goal of social media, if you're using that, should be to feed your email. Like,
Absolutely.
the list is where you need to be putting the energy, however you're driving people to it.
Yep. Oh my gosh. We could talk about this for 3 weeks.
Yes,
I love it.
I know.
The other thing I just want to say, and I think this is really important. I mean, we've all watched over the last few years some of the biggest coaching names burn out,
Mhm.
close doors, no judgment on whatever went on in their world. However, it is not uncommon that I am taking 19 and 20 days off at a time to do things that really
Yeah,
matter to me. I'm getting ready to hike 80 miles of Camino next
that's
month,
awesome.
across Spain. And I can do that because I can write and my VA can preload the emails while I'm gone and they're still doing the work.
Mhm.
And then I don't have to put this journey on social media. I might if I choose to. I don't know
Right.
yet, right? But I don't have to worry about the marketing and the sales while I'm gone. And to me, that is a well-balanced, mindful business.
You can be present.
Absolutely.
Imagine that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, no, I love that. And you're absolutely right. And to your point, you can queue them up and you can be wherever the heck you want to be and it's working on your behalf, which I totally geek out in automation. So that's like
Yeah.
my sweet spot. So I love that absolutely. So I want to dive a little bit into the how in the creating of the storytelling emails or the strategy that you have. Like a lot of us have blockers of what do I talk about, you know?
Yeah.
There's everything from Seinfeld emails that you should come up with to, you know, every topic under the sun. So what would you recommend for people with that?
Yeah. Well, I think the very first thing is for everyone to think of that, at least how I read emails. So I'm on people's emails, right? What I do is I sit down on a Saturday or Sunday and I pick up my phone while I have my coffee
Mhm.
and I go to like Julie's emails and I type in her name and I read up from the order they came in.
Okay.
It tells a story of what's happening, right?
Mhm.
Um, whether or not you do it that way or not, that's how I want you to think about building emails that build the story over time. And I think what generally happens is people are like, oh, crap, I gotta send an email, and they sit down and they rush one out. And we can feel that on the other side. It's not story driven, right? And so the very first thing we really help our clients do is to think through like the whole year of what promotions are happening, when are those happening, and then chunking out themes for campaigns
Mhm.
for emails. And that way it's all tied together. Your campaign themes match the heart and soul of the offer or the event or the retreat or whatever it is that you're offering. And it's just seamless, but it tells that story. There's like a through line through it all, right? So that would be the very first thing that I would say. The
Mhm.
second thing would be to, I mean, this can go so deep, Julie, but like we have a resource that's super fun that I can actually give the link to
Yeah.
here. But it's 65 story ideas for your email. And it's literally like 65 things. You can close your eyes and pick one and you can relate it to anything going on, but it's based in a story. And sometimes that's what we need is the prompt to like get the creative juices flowing. It's very different to pick a prompt than it is to like stare at your blank Google Doc, trying to think about what the heck you're going to say,
Yeah.
right? So that's a really good resource. And then the other thing I'd say is every month in our content personality club, which we'll talk about the content personality in a moment,
Mhm.
we are helping people with the messaging frameworks that make email work and convert,
Mhm.
right? So there is a big difference, and anyone who's reached 6 or 7 figures will know this. There is a difference between a story email and a story email that is messaged for conversion.
Yeah.
And there's not a huge difference, but the positioning of what you're saying and how you're saying it is important. And so every month we're helping our business owners with the frameworks and they're plugging in the content so they have the frameworks for conversion. And I think all of these things are important because you can't just expect to get a download of 65 story ideas if you don't understand the psychology of messaging of what's going to make the conversion. And then the bigger picture is you haven't thought about where does this fit in to your overall strategy for like the year of driving sales and revenue,
Yeah.
right? These are the things I love geeking out and talking to people about at 6 and 7 figures because we have to think differently to get different results at this stage. And so it's more of a cohesive campaign and a story that's ongoing than a one-off email.
Yeah. 100%. And then there's something driving it and also somewhere you're driving people to, right? Rather than just
Exactly.
an interruption in the middle of my day.
Yeah.
And I know you've got a ton of things going on, but tell us a bit about the Content Personality Club. And I know you've got some other mastermind things going on.
Yeah. Well, the Content Personality Club is our email marketing and messaging mentorship program. Um, the Content Personality was born about 8 years ago. Actually, it's been our #1 lead magnet for years. Tens of thousands of people have determined what's their natural way to market their business. And it does a lot for anyone who takes the quiz, because we're all bombarded with these messages. You should have a podcast. You need to do video, got to do reels. Well, where's your blog? Or using LinkedIn newsletters? I mean, it could go on and on, right? And so if you're not sure where your natural strength is, then you could be pulled into all these directions. And so with an 8-question quiz, people can find out what is their strength that converts. And that's the difference, right? It's the strength or the energy you bring to that particular type of marketing that converts to offers and clients and new business. A great, there's 5 content personalities: live, in person, audio, visual, video, and written. And I always love to tell the story. I'm an author. I can write till the cows come home. People love my writing, but my writing is not what converts to clients, because I'm a live, in-person content personality, right? So I use writing on social to get them to my email list. I use written and email to tell a great story. But where do I sell? In a training.
Yeah.
Because that is where my energy converts. And so if people don't know what their dominant content personality is, that would be the first place to start, because you could be spending a lot of time on, let's say, an audio version or a podcast, which is great for maybe getting people to your list. But if you don't convert via audio, we have to switch your marketing to the conversion piece, right? And so anyway, that's called the Content Personality Wheel, and that's the work we do in the Content Personality Club.
Awesome.
The retreats, which are interesting, I'm glad you asked about this. I had an experience in May that really upset me. And I went to Austin, I went to an event, and what happened at this event, first of all, there was a promise to the event, which we all know, if we run events, you should have a promise to your event of what people are going to walk away with, right? The promise was never fulfilled. It was never stated again after the first 5 minutes. And the event, for all intents and purposes, was a shit show of people being paraded across the stage in 10-minute increments, giving you quote unquote strategy. Not going to fly with me.
Right.
Strategies,
You are in your
right?
business, yeah.
There was no strategy. It was more like little fire hoses of content coming at you for 3 days. I later learned these people were chosen because they had paid $50K to be in a mastermind, and they were all there to promote each other.
How is that one
not
similar?
happy. Yeah,
Yes.
this happens a lot, right?
It does. More than you think.
Yeah, a
You sit there
lot.
and you're
And
like,
so,
why am I here?
yeah, exactly. It was like disjointed. Anyway, I came home and I thought about that for a long time, Julie. And I think sometimes when we can think about the things that are upsetting and triggering us, we can often come up with a better solution, right? For the right people, not everyone, but for the right people. So I decided that next week that I was going to host mastermind retreats. And this is where me, equal to you and whoever else comes. We're equal. We're business owners. We're equal. We're in it together. You're an expert at what you do. I'm an expert at what I do. Why aren't we getting together for a week in Mexico and doing a culinary vacation with a mastermind retreat? Like, this was the question that kept going through my head.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful question that has now turned into a culinary mastermind in Mexico in September 2025, a yoga in Italy retreat, mastermind retreat in May of 2026.
Wow.
And I'm getting ready to put Fiji mastermind retreat and sign the contract for fall of 2026.
Wow.
Right? And I'm excited, and they're selling. And so this tells me a couple things. People do want to get together with other smart people and grow their business. And we don't have to pay $50,000 to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So this was the fire for me I'm glad I went to that event
Yep.
because it was the fire that propelled this next iteration forward. And we're really calling in people who are already experts. They're kind. They know that all we need is a few other key people who can send us referrals if we just knew what each other did and we
Mhm.
understand it better, and they want to travel. And to me, that's like building a business in joy for me.
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. And you get to all grow together and help each other succeed and bring joy, right? To both the experience
Absolutely.
and to each other. So I think that's amazing. And, out of pain points is usually where something really beautiful happens, right? So it is good that you went to that event and were totally disgusted and said, this can be done a better way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. And also back to your content wheel, which I think is really powerful. Um, it's funny, I struggle a lot to write. Yeah, like I sit down at the paper like a lot of people and I'm like, okay, now what? Right? Like you need something to spark that juice. And what I found is personally what has worked well for me is again, when I'm in those mindless points, like driving is my key one, that I do much better with audio, go figure, right? But if I have a topic, especially like taking emails, for example, and you might think this is awful, so I'm open to your thoughts, but I will just verbalize it into a transcriber so I don't have to type it, of course, but then I can take that and then tweak it, but it's my voice and my authentic thoughts. And it's been really helpful for me, especially when I have those brain blocks, that I can just speak something and have the words, and then I can work with that.
Yeah. No, I think it's brilliant. And you are like the perfect example of 9 years ago of somebody I had a conversation with. And she called me on the phone and she said, because we didn't have Zoom back then. She said, will you help me write a book? And or get an outline for a business book.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? And she's like, well, I signed up for this program and now we're in month 9 and we're literally being flown to California and getting locked in our room for 3 days. And I got to come out with a manuscript. I'm like, do you even want to write a book? And she started sobbing. She's like,
Oh.
no, I don't want to write a book. This is torture. And I'm like, all right. I couldn't sleep that night. I hung up that phone and I couldn't sleep that night. That was the night the content personality wheel was born. And I called her up 2 days later and I said to her, I developed a tool and I want you to be the first person to test it. And she came back as audio.
Mhm.
And that made so much sense to me of why she was dreading this book. She wanted a book, but sitting down
Right.
to write the book was just not going to be her avenue of writing the book.
Yeah.
So I told her, will you please take your phone and start dictating your book?
Mhm.
And she had wanted a book, Julie, for like 7 years. In 6 months, she had a book.
Wow.
And so that's the power of understanding where your natural strength lies. And so I'm glad, clearly, you're probably an audio person, Julie,
Right.
and you are using your tools to dictate it, to make it less painful. We call that joy fueled marketing,
Yeah.
and to get your message out to the world. So I say, keep it up.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think it's critical to your content wheel of what are your strengths? Because I didn't know for the longest time that like before I had a podcast, I'm like never in a million years. And growing up, my parents laugh because I didn't talk. Like I was very quiet. I was very, just very quiet growing up. And so now I don't shut up. Like, once you find those strengths and you
Yes,
can unlock them, you can impact a lot of people's lives that way.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you've accomplished a ton in your business and personally, professionally, but how do you define success? What does that look like for you?
Spaciousness on my calendar.
I love that.
It is
Doing
not a
nothing.
common answer, but it's my answer, and it's how I determine the year we grew to $1 million brand. I had 197 days off that year.
That's amazing.
So it's always like, can I top it?
Right? There you go. I love that.
It's a fun puzzle, but also to me, I'm naturally an introvert. I can't have a lot of input all the time. Like
Mhm.
doing Zoom meetings back to back, like forget it. Like it is just not my definition of joy. For some people that would be, and
Yeah.
that's okay. But when I started thinking about the success of my business or how I define success into how much spaciousness I have in my calendar, because I like to do things like go to the Camino for 20 days and hike across Spain or go take an art workshop for a week. Naturally, what happened is I would plot all the time off first. The work will get done,
Mhm.
or it's just not that important. Like
Yeah.
that's it, right? So, I don't want anyone to think like I'm not working over here, but when you plot your spaciousness in your calendar first, if that's a value, you will figure out the rest of the stuff if you don't break your own boundaries.
Yeah. No, I love that. I absolutely love that. And uh, I think often we plan the spaciousness and then we fill it in. Like,
Absolutely.
so I mean, it sounds like you have trips and all that, but what do you recommend for that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's just first I treat my spaciousness as its own client.
Mhm.
That's what had to happen, right? So this afternoon, for example, I'm out of the office at 2 and I am going, it's in my calendar and it says 2 to 9. I'm taking a special art class this evening, right?
Awesome.
So it's in there and I'm going, I'm going to honor it. But I had to learn to treat my time off as its own client and not just like a nice have for Shannon,
Mm,
right?
yeah, I love that. And I'm curious, if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
Just 5 minutes. I could probably do this in 5 seconds. Uh, find your strength in marketing, use it in your email marketing. You will have joy and more revenue in your business than you ever knew what to do with.
That
Quit
easy.
flying all over, doing all the things,
Yeah.
having shiny squirrel syndrome.
Yeah. Do less.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, I know. No, and it's a good reminder. We all need that reminder and do more with less, right? Do
Yeah.
less things.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, where can people find you after your art class? Where can they
After my
find you
art
online?
class, yes, joyfulbusinessrevolution.com. If you want to take the quiz, you can go to joyfulbusinessrevolution.com/quiz. And if you want to pick up the 65 story prompts, it's joyfulbusinessrevolution.com/65 ideas. I think I'm going to look it up right now.
All right, cool. We'll include the link below so everybody can come check it out.
Yeah. 65 story ideas.
Okay, got it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, definitely check out those links and we'll have them below for everybody. And I appreciate you being on, Shannon. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I will see you on the next episode.